What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and today I wanted to bring to you the most epic battle of the year. So, we've got, as you can tell by the title, Andrew Yang versus Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to break this into two parts, and this video is going to cover the macro lens that we see these candidates through, and that lens being the search traffic, meaning the search terms for these candidates on Google, and then seeing as how the next biggest search engine in the entire world is YouTube, and Google owns YouTube, we are also going to look at the data on YouTube. Plus, there's a little bit different psychology when people are on Google versus when people are on YouTube. A lot of the times when you're on YouTube, there's just a different psychology. Once you dig into some of the nuances, you'll notice some of these things, but people may want to learn how to do something on YouTube and have that purpose, similar to they might on Google. However, the intent is different, to be entertained and learn something at the same time. So not just, I've watched videos on how to do, anyway, side topic, there's difference in psychology between YouTube versus Google search. Then we're going to get into Twitter. So we're going to jump on and we're going to look behind the scenes on terms of like how much output they're putting in terms of number of tweets, as well as how many followers they're getting. Then we were going to go to Facebook. We're going to check out how many followers and what's going on with Facebook behind the scenes. So we're just going to take a look at the data behind everything, and then I will just draw this simple conclusion for you, and then we're going to step into part 2 of this video because I have a feeling I'll run out of time. This camera only films for about 20 minutes. Okay, so we've got their website. So we've got Andrew Yang's website and Donald Trump's website. We're going to look at the data underneath the hood to really see the traffic to these sites and what's going on with that over time, and some interesting stuff about their websites. And what is the foundation? Like, why are we looking at all this data? To try to get a sense, right? There's a big movement, I feel like, in terms of Andrew Yang. And I think that anybody who thinks that this is the candidate that they would like and they see that with Andrew Yang, I don't know. There's a different. It's not showing up in the polls, but I want to take a look at this because I can see it's happening through the data, but. And probably people who are on YouTube watching this video can probably sense what's going on. But when you start looking at the data, it's very interesting. So I think Andrew Yang could potentially be the candidate for the Democratic Party. It's still super duper early, but that's like a super long shot. But if any sort of trend continues with the relevance online, that could take place. Anyways, so after going through their website, we're going to take a look at the hashtag usage for Andrew Yang versus Donald Trump on Twitter and on Instagram, because we looked originally at their Twitter accounts. Now we're going to look at people talking about them in a sense, because if you're using these hashtags, more than likely you're trying to talk about somebody, right? Like, if you're using Andrew Yang as a hashtag, you're probably fucking talking about them. And then the last thing we're going to take a look at, also we looked at similarly from one point of view in terms of the YouTube search. Now we're going to look at the actual YouTube channel, right? Because it tells a little bit different story. But with all of that being said, if this is your first time here, my name is Sam. And if you are returning, it's good to freaking see you. Now, let's get started with the very macro. We're going to start with the web search at 12 months out. And the first initial thing is that Yang has virtually no search traffic for the first half of the past 12 months. Virtually none, where Donald Trump is up significantly higher. But about 6 months ago, which is kind of interesting. I'm not saying this is causation for this, but Andrew Yang has been trending up and to the right a little, while at the same 6-month mark, it looks like Donald Trump, these are the search terms on Google, has actually been trending down and to the right. So that is kind of interesting. Now let's take a step in and move to the 90 days, a little bit more relevant here. Now, over the past 90 days, Donald Trump is getting searched probably about 5 times as much on the web over the past 90 days. However, there was, it looks like, a couple occasions where Yang was actually searched more. And interesting observation, if you go to the 12-month versus the 90-day, they do a color coding on the states, geographically speaking. And just this happens to be blue and red, Yang versus Trump, red for Trump. And at the 12-month mark, all the states are bright red. And at the 90-day mark, the shade has changed slightly. It's a little bit less vibrant, bright, like there's a more of a dilution happening. So let's jump in again to 30 days here. You can see that there's a lot more search traffic for Andrew Yang. However, Trump is still 4 times more likely to get searched for. However, the states are also even from a geographic standpoint, they're all Trump. However, they do appear to be lightening as I come in terms of as they get lighter and lighter, then they're going to, at some point, if that trend continued, then it would flip over to having a state, say California, the search volume in that state being more than 50% for Andrew Yang versus Donald Trump, if that were the case. And at that point, it would switch from red to blue on this map here. And they all were bright red, and it's just diminishing just ever so slightly. Let's go in again. Now we're going to take a look at the 7 days here. 7 days, a similar thing. It actually looks like there has been an increase in the amount of search around Trump. This is 8/24/2019, so I think that the tariff stuff just came out the other day, so that could be exactly what is helping that, because that's going to be a global thing. However, this is only for U.S. search, but I do think that it's just been talked about a little bit more over the last 7 days. Now let's just jump in. It's probably going to tell the same story at the 24-hour mark, but we'll take a look here. And, yep, it's about the same. It looks like it's even been higher over the last 24 hours in terms of like 6-1, meaning every single search for Andrew Yang, there's been 6 searches for Donald Trump. Like, that's pretty significant of a lead there. So, if we're going to call this round, this is definitely, I forgot to show you this cool chart. We're going to go this round for Google is going to Donald Trump. Next, we're going to jump over to the same search terms, Andrew Yang and Donald Trump. However, now we're going to look at the search terms on YouTube, which is the second largest search engine in the world. Okay, so there is, as we mentioned, a little bit different psychology on YouTube than there is on Google in terms of the intent of what somebody is looking for. And when you jump over to YouTube and you look at the 12 months, so we're going to do the same thing and walk our way in, it still looks like it's about 5-1 for 5 to 6-1 for Trump versus Yang at the 12-month mark. However, similarly as the Google trends in terms of search traffic, at about 6 months ago, Andrew Yang started going up and to the right. The trend on YouTube is way more apparent, up and to the right, where on Google it's up and to the right, but it's a lot slower in terms of the growth rate, the slope of the line. Also, all the states are pretty bright red here, but coincidentally, and I have no idea why, you can say whatever you think it might be. I'm not saying this is the reason by any stretch of the imagination. However, when Andrew Yang started taking off, in terms, because there was virtually nothing for the first 6 months, and then it started going up and to the right. When that happened, Donald Trump, in terms of search volume on YouTube, actually started going down and to the right. So that is kind of interesting. I have no idea what happened around 6 months ago. I think it's probably just a coincidence. Now, when we come in from the 12 to the 3-month mark, all the states are significantly less vibrant in the red shade that they were, meaning that there's been an increase in search volume for Andrew Yang. And when we look at the data, it says the same exact thing. So now it was 1 to 5 to 1 to 6, right? In terms of, for every one search for Andrew Yang, there was 5 searches for Donald Trump, or 6 searches for Donald Trump. You see, that was 6. Just didn't see it quick enough. Okay. And now it's just over 2 to 1. Like, for every one search of Andrew Yang, there's like 2.1 or 2.2 searches for Donald Trump. So significantly cut down that lead. And now we'll come into the past 30 days and see what it looks like. And now it's actually less than that. It's probably 35% larger, meaning that there's been a tremendous increase on the daily average search volume for these. It's more like Donald Trump has a lead, but the lead has been shrinking as we stepped in. Let's come in again to the 7-day and see how these look. In the past 7 days, and this could be, again, with the tariff stuff that's happening in the news. By the way, this is not a plugged in. Thumbs up for not having a plugged in microphone. As you can see, I never even took it out of the packaging. Now, over the past 7 days, Donald Trump has increased his lead. However, at the past 7 days, there is one state that is now Andrew Yang, and that is Hawaii. So there's more search volume out of the total between these two candidates in Hawaii for Andrew Yang than Donald Trump. And I do find that kind of interesting because the native Hawaiians, I feel as though the cost of living for native... I lived in Hawaii twice, and by no stretch of the imagination am I trying to say like I'm any slight authority or whatever. I've just been there twice, and I've lived there for a few years. And I feel as though a lot of the local people who have been there for a long time are having a very difficult time from a living situation where people don't realize it, but a lot of the people don't have like a lot of money to like do stuff, and that could be why, because he's talking about the freedom dividend, that was the point of that. Now we're gonna jump into the past day and just see what the difference is here. And at this point, Trump even had a bigger lead, but kind of interesting. So the bigger lead is now, it is about 3 to 1, 2.75 to 3 to 1, meaning one search for Andrew Yang equals 2.75 to 3 searches for Donald Trump. However, there is 2 states that have more search volume for Andrew Yang at this point than for Donald Trump. So that is kind of interesting. I would say the trend, right? This is conjecture, but if there's any sort of sense that I'm correct in terms of this movement progressing, I would say if I was to try to predict who will eventually have more search volume in the next 3 months or 6 months, I might pick Andrew Yang for this category. However, given the complete dominance of Donald Trump in terms of search volume on YouTube, this goes towards Donald Trump as well. Again, though, if I had to predict, I think I would probably go towards this evening out significantly over the next 90 days. And then in that 90 to 180 days, I could see this flipping over significantly more. But we'll see how the next several weeks play out. The next category we're going to get into real quick is on Twitter. So on Twitter, well, Twitter's almost like... We already know this about Donald Trump. He fucking dominates Twitter, and that is evident by his... he's got 63 million followers, according to Social Blade. And he's grown that by 1.15 million over the last 30 days. So that is substantial. The followers that he's gaining on average per month over the past year and a half to so, 2 years probably, more like 2 years, has kind of been down and to the right. Still gaining a significant number, like several 100,000 per month, but it has been kind of down and to the right and like flattening out over the past 12 months or so. The number of tweets over the past 30 days was 611, and the tweet volume over the past year 2 years has been up into the right, meaning he's been tweeting more and more over the last couple years. Now, over to Andrew Yang, he only has 700,000 followers. So 700,000 versus 64 million, roughly. That's a substantial difference. Substantial. And Andrew Yang is, he actually tweeted more, though, than Donald Trump by over 130 something tweets. So that's kind of interesting. He's putting in more work on Twitter, and Donald Trump puts a lot of work on the Twitter, so that's kind of interesting. The total number of followers from the Andrew Yang has gained versus what Donald Trump was. Andrew Yang gained 183,000. So in terms of the growth rate, like clearly we can see if he's got 715,000 followers and he's growing at 185,000 per 30-day period, that's a substantial growth rate as well, like significantly higher than Donald Trump at 1.15 million. However, 1.15 million followers over the past 30 days is crazy. That's really, really big. But this is obviously on a global basis, but still, that's a tremendous amount of people. So if you look at Andrew over the past, he's been gaining the number of followers over the past, year or so has been kind of up and to the right. Very volatile though. And the monthly number of tweets, let's see over time between these two guys. It looks like, Andrew Yang looks like he has had a higher probably average number of tweets over the past, year or so. So that could be also why, because he's putting in more work on there than Trump is, if you gauge work by the amount of communications or people that you can get in front of, which I think is probably a relevant way of looking at that. Next, we're going to give this round to Twitter to Donald Trump. He just, the numbers are just dwarfing Andrew Yang, but it will be interesting to see. Now, quickly, we're going to jump over to Facebook here. Again, just like Twitter, 24.5 roughly million likes on the page versus 171. So substantial difference in that. The total number of followers, the total number of likes on the media that they post, or posts that they post, is 31,000 roughly for Andrew Yang. And for Donald Trump, it is 86. So much more engaged base for Andrew Yang. However, we could probably say that from also the sense of anybody who's probably watching this video. But at the same time, that when you have a base as small as that, obviously that's a lot bigger than this channel. But at the same time, relative to 24 million, that's pretty high in terms of engagement rate, but might drop as the number of followers he gets changes and increases. So quickly, I'm just going to go give this one because he's growing, and because it's just so much bigger in terms of the growth, 3 times bigger, so it would take a while for that to catch up. So right now, we'll touch on this video again, or this series of comparing these in the future, so make sure you press that subscribe button. And we have 3 more categories to go through: the website comparison, the hashtag in terms of the usage of, kind of get a gauge of how many people are talking about them on Twitter and on Instagram. And lastly, we're going to take a look at their YouTube channel here. But this video, I'm about to run out of time on this camera, so don't forget to press that subscribe button and that bell notification so you can get notified as soon as that next video drops. I'm filming it as soon as I'm done with this, and then we're going to draw our conclusion. So don't forget to press that subscribe button and that bell notification. Leave a comment down below if you're going to watch part number 2, and I will pin that at the top of the comment section. Peace.